There's a modern push to get rid of all labels and stop boxing ourselves in, and people tend to really push up against definitions. And I understand where that's coming from. And for those who don't really fit in the boxes or the old paradigms, that's a really important thing to be doing. However, that modern push has actually left the rest of us in a place where we feel very misunderstood because we don't know how to describe ourselves or explain ourselves to one another. Now, one of the most disappointing experiences that a person can have is to feel like they're misunderstood or they're unseen. One of the most healing experiences a person can have is to feel like they've really been seen or understood. And there's this modern movement for people to push up against definitions or profiles, to betray or abandon those boundaries and to move beyond those definitions. And that is a really important thing to do at a particular point in your journey. The problem is it also leaves you without a way to articulate yourself, with no way to communicate or explain yourself to another person. It's almost impossible to help them understand who you are. If the only way you communicate is by telling them, I'm not this, I'm not that, it doesn't give them any context for understanding what you are or what you need. And so a lot of our programs at StrixRen are built on a system of profiles or definitions. And it's not to lock people in or to say, this is what you are and therefore. The point of it is to develop a language so that you can have an honest communication, honest conversation with the people in your lives. So that when you need to negotiate something for yourself, when you need something and you need to get access to that thing, someone is much more likely to help you out if they understand why you need that. If you're just being demanding, or you're saying, I want this and I'll accept nothing else, they're much less likely to bend or to help. So our systems aren't meant to lock you in. They're not meant to tell you who you are. They're a series of profiles. Most of our programs are actually built on these different profiles and to help you deep dive into understanding how it works. Psychology was never meant to be a system of locks and bounds that people are stuck in. It was meant to help us understand why we do the things that we do so that we can then either change what we were doing or we can do it in a better way. And the movement and the process of self-empowerment is all about understanding yourself to the smallest minutia. When you understand who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's much more likely that you can choose to do those things on purpose and in healthier ways. When you don't understand why you're doing something, but you're trying to stop doing it, it's a lot harder to negotiate that change or transformation. If you understand why you were doing something in the first place, then you can find a different way to get what you were after. And so the way that I speak is I will take a concept and I will often tease it out into multiple different variations, whether that's different versions of the same thing or that's different profiles of people and how they engage with that thing. But that's kind of my strength, is being able to break things down into all their different components. And my hope is that through the way that these systems and these courses are built, you can identify which ones are your strengths, which ones are your coping mechanisms. And then hopefully we can develop a game plan to help you get into the most empowered expression of who you are. One of my favorite words right now is the word articulation. And so you'll find in a lot of my work, I will use the words negotiate and navigate, especially when I'm talking about interpersonal relationships or trying to get what you want in the world. And so negotiate and navigate are the two definitions of articulation. Articulate means to explain something, to be able to put the words in the right order so that you can get your message across. That is to articulate. But also articulate is to move something around a leverage point, like articulating an elbow. It's all the different ways that you can move it. So articulation both means explanation and movement. And that leads us to the negotiation, which is the explanation part of articulation, and the navigation, which is the movement part of articulation. The language that we develop throughout our programs at StrixRen, they're all meant to help you articulate your life, whether it's to navigate or to negotiate. But when you have that language, you can target the conversation towards your needs instead of your wants. When you understand why you want what you want, then you can find out how to get what you actually need. Most people get stuck in definitions. They'll be told something about themselves and they will define their entire reality around what someone else has reflected to them. And this is one of the downsides to being communal beings. We take the words of other people and the reflections of other people as absolute truth instead of taking it with a grain of salt. And so I do encourage you, with every piece of information you engage with, whether it's from me or from a different source, that you always test it. Put it through a series of trials and see if it's actually true for you. There may be a majority of something that is true for you, but little bits and pieces that actually don't resonate with you. And you need to know yourself well enough to know if that's true. It depends on where you are in your journey, how helpful different languages will be. And so for the majority, I'm talking to people who have tried to do the work and have come up against that boundary. They've come up against those blockages and they just can't get themselves any farther. They have problems in relationships that they haven't been able to figure out how to get past. They have issues in their personal expression that they really want to change and have done the work and have tried to follow the different programs and just have only got themselves so far, and they're looking for that thing that will take them beyond and break them into the new level. That's usually where I come in. I'm a specialist who helps people who are frustrated or who have gone and exhausted one path and they're looking for a different variation. I'm now welcoming anyone into these courses and into my work and trying to find a way that I can frame that language to be able to help people, whether at the beginning of your story and you just don't know how to even tell someone what it is that you're experiencing, or you're at the middle of your story and you've exhausted one pathway and you need to find another one, or if you're at a totally different place in your story where you feel like you are the master of your own reality and you're looking at the manifestation side. Okay, how do I make the universe itself shape to my will? What we talk about here and the language that I'm developing here, it helps no matter where you are in that story. And I hope that you can find your way in to yourself. And my prayer is to offer a language for you to have that negotiation with reality, with other people, and with your own authentic being. It's one thing for teachings to tell you to be your authentic self and do not compromise that. It's another thing entirely if you have been so cultivated by your experiences and your culture that you aren't entirely sure who that even is. So all programs start from the premise of we don't really know what's going on. You have a history, and so you have revealed yourself through your history, but you've also been cultivated by your history. And this is where we start the conversation. And most of the work that I do, I tell you to look at your past, look at your history for the cues and the keys to be able to get deeper into who you actually are. We like to express ourselves in those moments of shock. And one of my favorite sayings is that you accidentally reveal who you are. Very rarely can you tell someone who you are. And more likely they are telling you who you have been. And it's those moments that we usually brush it off and we say, oh, that was nothing. Anyone would do that. Those are the moments that you're actually showing who you are. And it's being reflected to you because that's not true. Not everyone would do it. Genuinely not everyone would do it, especially when we're talking about kindness. And so we look at those different reflections that our reality gives us to help shape a picture of who we're accidentally revealing ourselves as. Because when your light shines through, it's so genuine and so natural, you don't even see it. You don't recognize it. And so usually we dismiss it and we almost betray it in the ways that we don't honor it or pay any attention to it. And so when you're looking at trying to develop an understanding of who you are and develop the skill set of being able to navigate, negotiate your life in an empowered way, we're looking at those reflections from the outside and from within you that have been dismissed, and the ways that you've revealed yourself when you didn't mean to. What are the natural ways that you respond or react to things before your protocol and your programming kicks in and tells you, oh, I'm supposed to do it this way instead? So the different profiles that we use in all of our programs and courses, again, they are just meant to help you understand which version or which variation you're expressing. There will be a version that is your authentic self expressing itself, and there will be a version that is the practiced programs expressing themselves. It's how you've learned to be. And I challenge you to look deep and dive really deep into yourself to actually understand which one is the authentic expression, which one is the natural expression, and which one you've worked really hard to develop. I look forward to exploring these conversations with you. And for those who are on the other side of the fence, who are on the side where they think that definitions and boundaries and profiles are actually harming people in their authentic expression, well, I've got something for you too. And the majority of our programs are designed around these profiles so people understand no matter which part of life you're engaging with, there are these different ways to do it, and we can find our way into which way works best for us. But then there's an entirely different program that is designed specifically for people who don't line up with any of those definitions. So either you'll hear a series of profiles and feel like none of them are you, or you'll hear a series of options and you'll feel like you resonate with every single one of them. And so if that's you, then you're what we call a bridge keeper, not someone who's designed to have one foot in either world. Sometimes you'll find balance through extremes, and sometimes you'll find a balance through temperance. But either way, you're actually designed to betray the boundaries of profiles by dabbling and touching into several of them. And your personality is a mix of all of them, and it is authentically that. As beautiful as that is, and as much as that is the goal of a lot of the modern movement, it's also one of the most difficult to navigate, because it's almost impossible for other people to understand what you need in a given moment, because your needs are so versatile and your personal expression is so diverse. And so there are unique struggles for people who are bridge keepers, for people who don't fit in to the profiles and the boundaries of definition. My ministry is to help develop that language for people to be able to explain themselves, to articulate themselves. We're never looking for permission from the outside world. So when I say explain yourself, that's not what I mean. What I mean is to be able to help other people understand who you are and what you need. One of my pet peeves was always when you're asked, who are you? And this is an old Tibetan practice. Every Wednesday night, the practitioners of Bon all over the world would sit in meditation and face the question of who are you? And that's the whole practice. Who are you? And you just sit there and you face the answer to that. And my pet peeve was that the answer to who are you for most people was a list of what's. I'm a mother. I am a child. I am a doctor. And they just list all the things that they do and the ways that they show up. They list the containers that they express themselves from instead of actually revealing who they are. And so when we are trying to articulate ourselves, when we're trying to reveal ourselves to other people, we need to understand that it starts with having containers to show up in. By having those containers, which it can be a social circumstance, it can be a career, it can be a relationship, whatever that is. It's the thing that you are showing up in. When we know what we are showing up in, we often know who we're supposed to show up as. And it makes it a lot easier to reveal ourselves within that context, or explore ourselves or understand ourselves within that context. However, we cultivate an understanding or a character that we're supposed to be in that particular context. And so there comes a point in the story where we need to move beyond that, where showing up the familiar way in the familiar place is actually working against you understanding who you are. It's actually working against other people understanding who you are. That's where we come into the story. And so we use the natural containers of our life as our playground. It's the arena in which we exercise the beast that we are. It's the arena that we exercise ourselves and our self-expression. And so those containers are very important, and we need to know which ones are appropriate, who are appropriate playmates in particular containers. If you're going through a process of trying to redefine yourself or understand yourself in different ways beyond the programming that you've experienced throughout your life, one of the most damaging things you can do is use the reflection of someone who is dependent on that particular expression as your way of gauging your progress. Because you can make leaps and bounds of progress and they won't see it, because they need to see you as consistent for them to understand who they are. And if that makes sense, then great, we're at the beginning of the conversation. If that didn't make any sense to you, then I suggest you look at our alchemy work. There's alchemy and tantric foundational programs that explain that language and how the different dynamics with different relationships work. And so that is one of the premise things that a lot of our programs are built on. But when we understand where we can show up and who we can show up with, then we start to see the what. Psychology is all about the why. Why do I show up this way? Why do I do it this way? Why do I need to do something this way? Why do I want to do something that way? And so all of the different platforms that we work with are different parts of your life. They're different domains in your life. And the why you show up the way that you do, or the why you want to change, or the why you need to show up in a different way. So it starts with the what, and we move into the why. And eventually, when you get those two fairly confident, then you can move into who, because it is who you are that is being revealed through all of it. But when you need to explain who you are, you can't, because it is impossible to articulate who you are. Who you are is a series of vibrations. Who you are is a series of experiences. It can only be understood through an experiential definition, which means there is no way to build a language that will explain who you are to someone else. You can simply set yourself up in the right circumstances to be revealed. They will have that experience of you and they will understand who that is. But if you turn around and ask them to tell you who that was, they probably can't, because it's a vibration. And it's one of those things that does not translate into language, into any language. And so the point of all of these languages, all of these definitions and profiles that we're developing, is to be able to move you into an experience that goes beyond articulation, goes beyond definitions or explanation or language at all. So by no means do I mean to confine you into these definitions or profiles. The profiles and definitions are the vehicles through which the exploration happens. They're the way that we articulate ourselves, they're the way that we negotiate with other people and with reality itself, and they are the way that we find movement. The way that we transform is through experience. And so always the goal is to move beyond the language, beyond the explainable. As you go through your own process, there will be things that I can help you with. There will be some of the teachings that I have to offer that are really helpful. And there will be a lot of challenges to move beyond the teachings into your own authentic play, exploration, and explanation. And so I'm always challenging people to take what I can give and then run with it, turn it into your own and do what you can with it, because each one of you has a very unique expression and each one of you has a very unique purpose in this world. And so if I can give you the language to be able to negotiate, awesome. And then I want you to do what I can't, because there are hundreds of thousands of people all trying to do similar things. And each one will do it in a unique way. And when each one of them shows up in the way that they were designed to do it, then the work gets done. With one person trying to do one thing, or thousands of people trying to do the same one thing that someone told them to do, the versatility and the variations that God designed into our universe don't get spoken to. And so always the goal is authentic expression. Always the goal is unique expression. Always the goal is your own authenticity. And I am happy to be able to contribute to your understanding of that. And I hope that you understand where we're coming from. And that the challenge is always to take the medicine, take the definitions, take the language, and then run with it and see how far you can take it. See how far you can push your own boundaries. See how far you can push this world towards evolution, not destruction. When everyone is trying to fit into a mold, eventually the mold breaks. When everyone is trying to do the same thing, eventually that platform cannot hold everyone. And so the versatility is a way that we can start to expand the impact that people have in this world. I am a true believer that every individual person in this world was designed for an individual, unique purpose. And my goal is to help give you whatever you need to be able to step into that and do exactly that thing. That's all. So, good luck on your journey. Enjoy the exploration. And I hope to see you on the other side. Selah. For more on this topic and other content that's like it, like, subscribe, follow, and then head over to our homepage at strixrun.com or our content page to see other programs with content like this and also that's nothing like this. All right, follow us over and I'll see you there.